Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're about to take another deep dive, and this time we're stepping right into the magic of, you guessed it, Harry Potter. A world of spells and sorcery, fantastic beasts, and a boy who lived.
Right. You guys have handed us excerpts from a study guide, passages from the text itself, even some thought-provoking essays. It's going to be fun to unpack it all.
And we've got our work cut out for us. Unearthing the hidden gems within the very first chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Which is where it all begins, right?
So,
Well, after one.
the foundation of it all. It's remarkable how much Rowling packs into this single chapter.
It's true. It really sets the stage, doesn't it? The major themes, the characters.
The characters that shape Harry's journey, and of course that magical world that awaits. But before we get ahead of ourselves.
Right. Got to start at the beginning.
Exactly. And it all starts with a family that's about as far from magical as you can get. The Dursleys.
Oh, the Dursleys. They're practically the poster family for ordinary, aren't they? What's your take on these characters? They're practically the opposite of everything magical, wouldn't you say?
You're absolutely right. Vernon, Petunia, Dudley. They're obsessed with normalcy, with fitting in. But their fear of magic, especially Harry's magic, it runs much deeper than that.
It's like they're terrified of anything that's different, anything out of the ordinary.
Precisely. And it's this fear that drives their every action, making them the perfect unsuspecting guardians for a boy who's destined to turn their world upside down.
They really do go to great lengths to maintain that facade of normalcy, don't they? Like trying to ignore a cat reading a map. I mean, come on, that's not something you see every day.
Even in the Muggle world, you don't just see a cat reading a map. What's fascinating is how Rowling uses these seemingly small, even humorous moments to subtly introduce us to the presence of magic.
It's like she's laying the groundwork, weaving magic into the fabric of the story right from the start.
Exactly. It's not just a quirky detail. It subtly introduces the concept of magical creatures existing within the ordinary world, hinting at the hidden magic Harry will soon discover.
And then there's all that talk about the Potters, owls flying in broad daylight, those strangely dressed people Mr. Dursley keeps encountering. He tries so hard to rationalize it all away.
But for us, the readers, it creates this delicious sense of anticipation, this feeling that something extraordinary is about to happen.
And then bam, Dumbledore arrives. Talk about making an entrance.
Shattering the Dursleys' carefully constructed facade of normalcy.
He just oozes wisdom and power, doesn't he? It's like the streetlights themselves dim in respect as he walks by.
Dumbledore's arrival highlights a key theme of the series, the balance between love and sacrifice.
And the lengths he'll go to protect Harry, even if it means placing him with, shall we say, less than ideal guardians.
Exactly. And to ensure Harry's safety, he relies on a powerful magic and ancient protection that Harry has, as long as he can call his aunt's house home.
So we see that ancient magic adding a layer of complexity to Dumbledore's decision, right? It ensures Harry's safety, but at what cost? Not everyone agrees with his methods, as we see with Professor McGonagall. What's your take on her concerns about leaving Harry with the Dursleys?
McGonagall's disapproval is important. She serves as the voice of reason, questioning whether the Dursleys' home is the right environment for a child, especially one who's lost so much.
She doesn't hold back, does she? She clearly states her doubts about the Dursleys' ability to provide a loving home.
Not at all. She understands the power of love, of family, and she worries about the long-term impact this decision will have on Harry.
It's a valid concern, but despite her doubts, she trusts Dumbledore's judgment.
Which speaks to the depth of their relationship, the respect they have for each other, even when they disagree.
And then there's Hagrid, arriving with baby Harry in tow.
On a flying motorcycle, no less. Borrowed from Sirius Black, which, mind you, is a detail that will come up again later in the series. But what's truly striking is Hagrid's grief over the Potters' deaths. It's raw, it's palpable, and it adds another layer of emotional depth to the scene.
He's heartbroken for Harry, having to live with Muggles. You can't help but feel for him. He sees the Dursleys for what they are, but also understands the necessity of Dumbledore's plan.
It's a poignant moment that foreshadows the challenges and heartaches Harry will face as he grows older. Hagrid, with his gruff exterior and heart of gold, he embodies the unwavering loyalty and fierce love that we see in the Weasleys and so many others in the wizarding world.
He really does. And amid all of this, there's baby Harry, sound asleep, marked with that lightning-shaped scar.
Which isn't just a physical mark, is it? It represents something much deeper.
It's a constant reminder of Voldemort's attack, but also, as Dumbledore points out, Harry's survival. What's your perspective on this? It seems super significant, even from page 1.
Oh, absolutely. That scar is a powerful symbol. It represents both Harry's vulnerability, and his extraordinary resilience. Dumbledore's words about scars being useful are incredibly telling. They foreshadow how this mark, this reminder of his past, will shape Harry's destiny and connect him to Voldemort in ways neither of them could have imagined.
That scar, it really makes you think, doesn't it? It's not just about what happened that night. It's about how those events will continue to shape Harry's life.
It's a visual representation of the unseen wounds, wouldn't you say? A physical manifestation of the deeper trauma. And it makes you wonder about the Dursleys.
What about them?
Their own scars. The ones they carry internally. Their fear, their prejudice against magic. It's like a barrier they've built around themselves.
It's like they're trying to shut out anything that challenges their worldview, their carefully constructed sense of normalcy.
A self-imposed prison, in a way. They're so afraid of what they don't understand that they shut themselves off from the very thing that could bring them joy. Connection, wonder.
And in doing so, they risk denying Harry those very same things. He might be physically safe at Privet Drive, but what about his emotional well-being?
Which brings us to one of the most debated topics in the entire Harry Potter fandom.
Dumbledore's decision, right, to leave Harry with the Dursleys.
Exactly. Was it the right call? People have strong opinions on both sides.
They really do. So let's delve into those arguments. What are the main points for and against Dumbledore's decision?
Well, on the one hand, you have the undeniable fact that the blood protection is incredibly powerful. As long as Harry can call Privet Drive home, Voldemort can't touch him.
And Dumbledore, knowing what Voldemort is capable of, he's prioritizing Harry's safety above all else.
Exactly. And you could also argue that growing up away from the wizarding world, at least for a while, might give Harry a semblance of a normal childhood.
Something he wouldn't have had otherwise, given his, well, unique circumstances.
Precisely. But then, of course, there's the other side of the coin.
The emotional cost. Knowing what we know about the Dursleys, their treatment of Harry, it's hard not to question the impact of those formative years.
Exactly. He might have been physically safe, but at what cost to his emotional well-being? The essays we read really highlighted that potential for psychological damage.
It wasn't a healthy environment. That much is clear.
And that's the heart of the debate, isn't it?
Oh.
The tension between what's considered necessary for the greater good versus the well-being of the individual.
It's a dilemma that we see played out time and again throughout the series, but it all starts here, with this one decision.
And it raises so many questions. Were there other options? Other families who might have provided a more loving, supportive environment?
Wizarding families who understood the magical world, but also the importance of, well, just basic kindness and decency.
Right. It's a question that lingers, even after multiple readings, and it speaks to the complexity of Dumbledore. He's not infallible. He makes mistakes.
And this might be one of them.
Possibly. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about that intriguing chapter title, The Boy Who Lived. What's the significance there? It's more than just a catchy title.
Right. It sets him apart from the very beginning. This isn't just any ordinary baby. The whole wizarding world is celebrating his survival, whispering his name.
And yet, there he is, oblivious, sleeping soundly in his crib. It's almost like we're in on a secret, isn't it?
We know the truth about Harry, the weight of the wizarding world's expectations, but he's completely shielded from it all, at least for now.
And that's the beauty of Rowling's storytelling. She gives us just enough information to pique our curiosity, to make us question, to make us eager to unravel the mysteries that lie ahead.
It's true. She has a knack for drawing us in, making us feel like we're part of the story. And those discussion questions you brought along really get you thinking. Like, how does Rowling use those subtle hints of magic to really pull the reader in?
It's masterful, really. The way she blends the mundane with the magical. She starts with the familiar, the Dursleys' ordinary, even boring world.
Right. Like, remember that tabby cat sitting there reading a map?
And then gradually, she introduces these cracks in their carefully constructed reality.
It's such a small detail, but it makes you stop and think, wait a minute, did I just see that?
Exactly. And then you start noticing other things, the owls, the whispers about the Potters, and you realize that something magical is definitely going on.
Even though the Dursleys try so hard to pretend it's not.
Their denial almost becomes a red flag for the reader, right? Like, okay, something extraordinary is happening here, whether they want to admit it or not.
It's true. It makes you wonder if they're in denial about other things, too. Like maybe they're just afraid of anything that challenges their worldview.
Interesting thought. It makes them strangely relatable, even if their actions aren't exactly praiseworthy. I mean, don't we all have moments where we'd rather cling to a comfortable lie than face a difficult truth?
I guess so. All right, let's tackle another question. This one's a bit more complex. Why start the story from the Dursleys' perspective? Wouldn't it have been more exciting to jump right into Harry's world?
That's what makes Rowling so brilliant. By starting with the Dursleys, she creates this incredible contrast that makes the arrival of magic even more powerful.
Oh, I see. So, like, if we started from Dumbledore's perspective, we'd be in the thick of the magical world right away.
Exactly. And we wouldn't have that same sense of wonder and discovery. We experience it alongside Harry, who's just as clueless as the Dursleys at this point.
Makes sense.
You know,
All right, last question, and it's a big one. Knowing what we know about the Dursleys and how they treated Harry, did Dumbledore make the right call by leaving him there?
the million galleon question. It's the ultimate debate, isn't it? Was the blood protection really worth the potential cost to Harry's emotional well-being?
There's no easy answer.
Not at all. We have to remember that Dumbledore was working with limited information, and he was facing an impossible choice. He knew the Dursleys weren't ideal.
But they were also the only shot Harry had at survival.
Right. He was putting Harry's safety above all else. And back then, remember, Voldemort was a terrifying force to be reckoned with. It's understandable why Dumbledore might resort to extreme measures.
It is. But, as we see throughout the books, even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. Dumbledore couldn't have known how the Dursleys would treat Harry, the emotional toll it would take.
And it really makes you think, was there another way? Could Dumbledore have found a way to ensure both Harry's safety and his happiness? Tough questions.
They really are, and I think that's what makes this first chapter, this introduction to the world of Harry Potter, so incredibly compelling. It's more than just a children's story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a story about love and loss, about the choices we make, and the consequences that follow.
It makes you think, and it sticks with you long after you've finished reading.
Definitely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Boy Who Lived, we'll leave you with this. How do you think those early years with the Dursleys shaped Harry? Did they make him stronger? Or did they leave invisible scars?
Something to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring the magic of storytelling, everyone.